Hey everybody, how are you? I'm Shelly Palmer and welcome to Web3 Wednesday. I am so happy to have everybody here. Chat is where it's at. I see a whole bunch of you guys are all queued up. So as you're coming in, just tell everybody who you are, tell everybody where you are, tell everybody what you do, and let's get some questions. It's an Ask Me Anything kind of Wednesday. I am totally happy to answer all of your questions. I'm drinking tea and I'm a little hoarse. I've had a crazy kind of a persistent, crazy cold for like 2 weeks, and it's nuts. So I'm welcome to Mackenzie Childs and Earl Grey tea with honey and lemon and ginger and other weirdness. But feeling pretty good, to tell you the truth. There's so much to cover today. First of all, a giant shout out as we start. Just a giant shout out to my dear, dear, dear friend Marty Cooper. A gentleman, a kind soul, a mentor, an unbelievable engineer, a great guy. And it was April 3rd, 50 years ago, April 3rd, that he walked out on 6th Avenue and made the first ever handheld cell phone call. Like, think about that for like a heartbeat. Marty Cooper walking out there 50 years ago with one of those massive Motorola phones you see in front of him in this picture and making the first cell phone call. And he called his competitor and said, "Hey, I'm calling you from a cell phone." And it was like, he loves to tell the story. He's such a humble guy. And he is the author of Cooper's Law, which says that the amount of traffic on any given telecommunications network will double every 30 months, and he has been 100% right. He's been closer and more accurate with that prediction than even Moore's Law has been. So all the best to Marty, and he's on Twitter. He's at Mobile Marty on Twitter, and you can tweet to him to congratulate him, and I hope that you will. While we're talking about fun stuff, just as everyone's getting in here, and by the way, hello everybody. Wow, what a nice showing in chat here. Please, just say hi to each other and say hi to me, and of course, tell each other where you are and what you do. And we will be very, very happy to take your questions today, and we'll get them up in chat, and we will put them on the screen and hopefully enter them, be able to answer them. So NAB show's coming up, nab.shellypalmer.com. And if you go there, you will find, let me see if I can find, where did I put it? I put it here. Let me quickly do this. We did this video. It's at nab.shellypalmer.com. Look at me. Hey, that's the whole video. But we have Tracy Geist from AWS, and she's talking about like all their streaming services, and it's a really nice, really nice. We've got interview. We've got Chris Gordon from Microsoft, and pretty much AWS's competitor here, and they are talking about all the streaming services and all the different ways you can stream. Veritone, if you haven't done any voice cloning yet, if you have not done gone to 11 Labs or Veritone and tried to clone a voice, they're doing like James Earl Jones and actors' voices, really interesting work where people can be able to license voices and use synthetic voices. They also have stuff you can use for like customer service. Simwave got bought by IMAX, so now we've got like, super high quality stuff. Saj Jamal, their VP marketing, talks about what they're doing at Simwave. And Branko Lepan, Nomad's another one of these like amazing online tool sets, as is Castus. They're into closed captioning and data-driven and AI-driven and instant closed captioning. Fascinating there. ArcXP, another wonderful resource for streamers, and Amagi, which is a whole suite of services. So if you are interested in any of that stuff, nab.shellypalmer.com is where you will find it. And it's a good video. If you're going to the show, like, you got to reach out to these people. Like, it's just coolest stuff ever. So all fun just fun across the board. Moving on, as we always do. Today, there's a POAP. What is a POAP? A Proof of Attendance Protocol token. So you get your protocol, a Proof of Attendance Protocol token, or POAP. Collect 5 of them. You get to come to stuff like we do at the Possible Conference, like we do at NAB, like we do online. We're going to take you on a journey. You'll meet other VIPs and hang out with them, and you get to go to our, play the reindeer games and come to the super secret handshake meeting. So if you want to grab your POAP, you'll do that at shellypalmer.com/POAP. Today, I need everybody to put on their exponential thinking caps. What is exponential thinking and what are exponential time frames? Because everything we are going to talk about today has to do with this image. And there are lots of ways to describe and to discuss what it is to think exponentially. This is a lily pond, and those are lily pads. And the story I like to tell is that it's going to take 30 days for the lily pond to be completely covered by lily pads. And on that day, the pond will die because no oxygen will be able to get to the fish. And so what day is this? What literal day? The pond is roughly 50% covered. What day is this in a 30-day cycle? If you're thinking linearly, you might call that, and you can put the answer in chat if you want, if you're all like little smarty pants. But if you are thinking in a linear fashion, you might call this day 15 or 20. We get those all the time. This is day 29. Pond looks fine. It's only about half covered. Looks good. Tomorrow, fully covered. And that's where we are in our world right now. We are living in this absolutely exponentially explosive time. Now, to be fair and frank, we've always lived in technologically explosive, exponentially explosive time. Always. But as you know, the difference between 1 and 2, I don't feel so big. 2 and 4, not so much. 4 and 8, still little numbers. 8 and 16, still little numbers. 16 and 32, go on and on and on. These are small numbers. And so for the last 10,000 years, it's been crawling along. You got language was big. Written language was big 5,000-7,000 years ago, depending on who you ask. Bronze Age, Iron Age, Industrial Age, Information Age, Space Age, whichever one goes in what order, depending on who you ask. So you can see those ages getting closer and closer together as technology, just advances. Ray Kurzweil calls it the law of accelerating returns. And that's just a fancy way to say that with technology, all technology ecosystems tend to improve exponentially over time. And he posits that we might experience 20,000 years worth of innovation in the 21st century. That's his idea. Well, let's see if we can bring this right into line with what's actually happening. On February 1st, ARK Investments, Kathy Wood's company, put out a report that talked about training generative pre-trained transformer models. And in this case, it's GPT-3 that they were talking about and she were talking about. And they talked about the millions of dollars it took early in the early stages. And in 2022, it cost $450,000 to train the model. And they said that, somewhere around 2030, which is in the bottom right of this. Let's see if I can find that. Here we go. Estimated 7 years. 2030, it was going to go from $450,000 down here to being somewhere in the order of $30 to train a model that was as competent as GPT-3. This is on February 1st. The estimate was 7 years. Go out to 2030. 6 weeks later, Stanford University trained a model, Alpaca, off of the Meta's Llama model, and got about all the way there for under $600. They said estimated 7 years. 6 weeks later, Stanford University researchers did it for $600. Under $600, they say. So that, my friends, is when we talk about, what is exponential time? When is the lily pad pond gonna get covered? When is day 29? It's always day 29 in the world of generative AI. And I read a story about this on March 21st, and I wrote a blog post you can find at shellypalmer.com called Run ChatGPT on your computer. Now, you're not really running ChatGPT. You're running a large language model with 7 billion parameters. called Alpaca, which is the model that the Stanford University researchers put out there. And then I found on GitHub the next day, the article's right there. It's the next day. It's like March 20th and March 21st at shellypalmer.com. I found this thing called Dolly, which was like a little autocomplete front end, looked like the playground at OpenAI. Just a little front end that's just an autocomplete front end to work with Alpaca or Llama for that matter. And basically I was able to install this. It's taking me longer to explain to you that I installed it than it took me to install it. It was a couple of npx commands and I was all done. And at the end of the day, on Monday, I was running this model, and it's not GPT-3, it's close. But then on Tuesday, we were able to do some embeddings and to starting to train this model to know what we needed to do and to do some code injection and rather context injection. And it became obvious that you're going to be able to run large language models either at the edge or on local devices or some combination of both in very, very short order. And so we're on the cusp of something that I don't think everyone can fully appreciate, not because everybody doesn't think that ChatGPT is so cool and everybody's hyping it, because everybody's hyping it, and yeah, I get all that. But this is going to go a lot faster than I think anyone in their wildest dreams. And by the way, the good and the bad. I don't know that we're going to see good or bad here. I think we're going to see both. And, it's just the speed of this is unimaginable. One of the things I would like everyone to do is, and I'm going in no particular order today, and I see there's a bunch of questions, and please keep them coming and we'll get them up on the screen. So I wrote this on Monday. Read ChatGPT's fine print. Everybody is all hyped up and excited about ChatGPT. So I'm going to call your attention to this paragraph. Now, this paragraph is in section 3, paragraph C of ChatGPT's terms of use. It says, we may use content from services other than our API, quote, non-API content, unquote, to help develop and improve our services. And then they go on, there's a link to how their non-API content is used, and they have an opt-out form. This is the key thing here, their opt-out form. You can find this at shellypalmer.com. You can also find this at OpenAI. Go there, do this. It's weird. It's like I think it's a Google form, right? It's your opt-out request, and you put in like your email and your whatever. I mean, it's not pretty sophisticated at all. It's literally, it's a Google form, but it's real, and that's where that's going. So what you want to do, you want to opt out, 100% opt out of any of them looking at your data if you're going to be goofing around with ChatGPT. It's really important that you don't put proprietary data in there. Are they going to use it for something bad? No. Are they trustworthy? Yes. Are they just doing it for customer service? Absolutely. But there are only two kinds of companies in the world, according to Robert Mueller III: companies that have been hacked and companies that don't know they've been hacked. At some point, you just want to make sure if it's really proprietary data that you just don't put it into ChatGPT without opting out of their ability or their right to look at your data. This is not true of the API. If you get either a GPT-3 API contract or a commercial relationship with OpenAI, and hopefully you'll get GPT-4 as it becomes available. There's a wait list. As you get API access and you get your API keys, that's a commercial license. They're not looking at your data. Remember, the models are pre-trained, and so it's not a question of can they use your data. They're not going to use your data with the APIs, but they can look at it. And so you don't want to be putting trade secrets into what basically is clear text in somebody else's environment. You just don't want to do it. So be aware. Forewarned is forearmed. I think that's the important part. There was a kind of a crazy Orwellian scary moment I want to talk to everybody about. Um, this is maybe the craziest story of the last 2 weeks, and it's Orwell comes to life. You can go to Midjourney, you can go to ChatGPT, and you can generate anything. I don't know how many of you remember Winston Smith from 1984, the George Orwell novel. And his job, he worked at the Ministry of Truth, and Winston's job was to rewrite history. That was his job. He would take a story and he'd rewrite it. So, of course, we live in a crazy world. This is Reddit, and this is a subreddit. This is the infamous Blue Plague incident in the 70s in the USSR. And here's a pictorial story of this odd blue plague. All of these are fake. All of these images are made in Midjourney. I'm just going to click through them for you for a second. So there was no such thing. But how would you know that these are not real? You'll say, well, these look not real. I don't know. For conspiracy theorists, this is pretty hardcore. Let's look at another one, shall we? Let's look at the July 2012 solar superstorm and blackout. So there's the solar superstorm, and this is the NASA people being sad and the president being sad. And then everybody in the various, these are all Midjourney images, all of them. And you say, well, they could be regular photos. Maybe they grabbed them. No. These are all prompted photos. And let's look at one more. This one is my, I don't know if it's my favorite. The Blue Plague may be my favorite. 2001, Great Cascadia 9.1 earthquake and tsunami, Pacific coast of the U.S. and Canada. Did that happen? Let's look at these 20 images. Scared people, terrible things happen in the streets, the tsunami is coming, destruction. Rewriting history. Winston Smith rewriting history for the Ministry of Truth in George Orwell's 1984, coming to life at Midjourney, and of course the stories easily written in ChatGPT. How would you know? How would you know? It is one of the craziest I don't know, experiments that I've seen. Really, one of the craziest ones. We have a question totally off topic, but I love it. It says, Shannon T, is Bitcoin back? Shannon, I've got a ticker on my desk, and Bitcoin's hovering around 30 grand, and Matic is about $1.11, and ETH is somewhere around 2,000 bucks. A little lower, maybe 1,900. There's a couple things going on. First of all, the Shanghai upgrade for Ethereum is happening, and about 30 billion of staked ETH will be unstaked. And I don't think it'll all come out at once. There are some safeguards against that. I think there's going to be a long line to put money in because there's pretty decent interest rates. Hard to say how that's all going to turn out, but some of that is making everybody very excited about what to do with their ETH. And I think there's also there's the Lightning Network. Bitcoin's Lightning Network is about to light up, and that's their answer to a layer 2 solution where they can write smart contracts and NFTs. So yeah, I think we're going to find a lot. Then there's every finance person is going to tell you a different story about cryptocurrency, and I don't want to get into that today because it doesn't make sense for me to tell the story of cryptocurrency past the point. But it's very clear that the industry's woken up a little bit. Very clear. And it's also very clear that crypto's on the rise. Will it stay that way? I'm not a speculator. Also, I don't give financial advice. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. This is for your information and entertainment only. But two things that could be causing the rise in crypto prices right now are excitement around the Shanghai upgrade and the release of an awful lot of money that's been staked, an awful lot of ETH, and also the Lightning Network coming online. All kinds of other things could be going on too. These are just two crypto-oriented things that I know are happening that will have an impact. Speaking of things that'll have an impact. We have three courses. We have crypto NFT. We've got Web3 in the metaverse, and the newest course is Med Academy Generative AI, or Generative AI for Executives. There should be some audio now. I think there was a muting problem for a second, but I think we're back. I think we are. So anyway, at medacademy.com or shellypalmer.com, you can find the new Med Academy Generative AI course. Let's have a quick look at it. Apologies for the muting issue. We had a little internet hiccup here. The internet has been very strange today. I don't know why. So let's have a quick view of the course. You'll see the introduction here. We actually introduce some synthetic humans, and we talk about, will AI take your job? We talk about what generative AI is. We talk about the tech stack and large language models in general, why it's so scary. We talk about decision frameworks and on and on. And we'll take you through a bunch of really interesting aspects of the course. Prompt crafting, of course, is part of this. You'll learn how to prompt craft, talk about security and privacy and decision frameworks. And then there's thought leadership pieces here. We've got really, really good resources, prompt crafting for marketers, how to add your data to ChatGPT, which I hope to go over today for a little bit, conversational AI and what it's going to do to web traffic, very important for marketers as well. Generative synthetic media, what that's going to do to marketing and entertainment, very impactful across the board. There are copyright issues you need to know about. What's near AGI? AGI is artificial general intelligence, and how close are we, and what's going to happen as we get closer and closer. Why I signed the letter to pause giant AI experiments, which of course I have no interest in them doing, but I do want to get the dialogue going. So this is the course, Generative AI for Executives, and I hope that you will take the class, and it's free. We have a POAP at the end of it as a completion certificate, and hopefully you can you'll tell your friends about it, and it will help get you started on a good path towards on a good path towards deeply understanding how you can use generative AI to increase productivity and to help you with your business. I think you will find increases in productivity that get close to 5 to 15% every day. I mean, I don't think it would be unreasonable to have that level of increase. So yeah, for every single person that works, and I would urge you to go deep into this right now, as deep as you possibly can, because I don't know, honestly, I don't know that I have ever been at a time in my professional career where a tool has been so universally accessible. I mean, maybe email, but even that took a minute for people to get into. People were like, I don't care about it. I like to send faxes, PDF files maybe, but even like, no, this is crazy quick adoption. So we have another question from the crowd, and this question I'm going to have to read here. NAB question. You reported the two major themes in NAB are intelligent content and sustainability. And are there any dominant connections between these themes? Frank Q. I don't think so. I don't think there are. Other than the fact that you can be more mindful of sustainability goals when you are using data science and data-driven decision making to create and distribute your content. The computers do certain things extremely well, whether it's AI or statistical machine learning or just scoring and on a regular decision tree. I mean, straight computational power. Computers are good at computing things, and one of the things you'll compute is what kind of carbon footprint you're leaving, what kind of impact you're having from a sustainability point of view. So as long as you are mindful of that as a goal and you throw it in the mix, I think that intelligent content and sustainability are linked in that way and that way only. Other than that, they have precious little to do with one another. They're both really important, and they're both going to be featured in NAB. Intelligent content, it's kind of an unusual phrase. I think they made it up. I don't think I've heard it in other places. It's as good of a description as anything else. For me, the question has always been, when will my media be able to find me? The answer is TikTok. Or any streaming service that is AI driven, where the video or the content is trained by you to come and get you. And so we're there. And now the question is, how will marketers capitalize on this without really interfering with the experience? Or how would a marketer or an advertiser or a sponsor, all three of those groups have driven the television industry, the entertainment industry forever. There are three models. I pay, you pay, someone else pays. It's advertiser supported, or it's subscription supported, or it's a combination of both. There aren't a whole lot of other models. So everybody doesn't really want to be interrupted while they're immersed in an experience. And the more powerful the filters become in our hands, the less likely you are to want to be interrupted by somebody. So we're going to be using an awful lot of tools to try and make this work. And I think there's a lot of work to do. I don't think this is cut and dried. So what I like about this year's NAB is that a lot of the companies are there with really interesting solutions for their part of the problem. And when you put them all together, you'll be able to get a good, solid personal understanding of how you want to frame the problem set based on the part of the industry that you're in. It's a little different for every part of the industry, as it always is. We have another question. It is from Mary M. And it says, how do you give an author credit for using an AI-created image? Well, what I do in my world, here, I'll show you. I will... here's an image from my near AGI transforming, is already transforming the world. This is the image I made with Midjourney. And here at the bottom, I write illustration created by Midjourney with the prompt, and then in quotes. And this is the prompt I used. Let's see if I can make that just bigger for you. Right, this is the prompt. So oops, sorry. I've contacted myself. Apologies. This is the prompt we use to credit, if you will, the image. So that's how we credit it. The Copyright Office says no. The Copyright Office says this is not copyrightable material, and that we are not entitled to a copyright for doing it. And there is no author per se. And this is going to become a really fascinating, and I mean really fascinating problem. Pablo Picasso Cubist period. Every single one of those images is on the internet. In fact, anybody who is even slightly famous for their Cubist paintings are meta-tagged Cubist and are on the internet. And so any art program that's training on images and looking for images that have the meta tag Cubist are going to find, same thing, Impressionist, Romantic, anime, it doesn't matter what it is. So is it trained on an individual image? No, it's trained on all of these images. What does that even mean? Well, large language models look at 1 trillion parameters now. GPT-4, that's what they say. It's billions at the very least. Is it trillions? They don't tell you, but it's the nonsense around GPT-4 is that it's a trillion parameter model. Is it? I don't know. Maybe it is. But at the end of the day, there's no one image that you can say this was copied from. So there's no author to get credit. And it's sort of like how people learn. You know, I've said this a lot on this show. Started my career as a professional musician, composer, producer, but as a kid, my favorite instrument, other than my electronic instruments, my favorite acoustic instrument was saxophone. And I loved alto and tenor sax and played in the school band and jazz band and wind ensemble and orchestra and everything else for that matter. When I was young, there were two saxophone players, Michael Brecker and David Sanborn. Michael is no longer with us. May he rest in peace, one of the greatest sax players that ever lived. And he's in the mind of if you were alive and had a saxophone in your hand in the 1970s when he hit the scene, he's been in your head ever since. And every sax player that's ever lived since Michael Brecker knows, every professional sax player knows every note he ever played. And that may be a slight exaggeration, but the important notes, which were almost every note he played was important. If you say David Sanborn to a sax player who is alive right now, who plays professionally, there is no sax player in the world who will not tell you pick up their horn and play like Sanborn, or try to, because it's not easy to do. Churchy, bluesy, big, awesome, monstrous alto sax sound. Play like David Sanborn is a thing you use to communicate with other sax players when you're asking them at a gig. It's like, yeah, man, take a solo. Do it like a Sanborn thing. Do a Sanborn thing. If you say do a Michael Brecker thing or do a Brecker thing, what you mean is I want chromatic harmony. I want chromatic harmony with a lot of notes, and I want you to play what's called playing outside the changes. That's what he did, and he did it like no one else ever. But you don't describe it as I would like you to play a solo using chromatic harmony and at particular points in the progression, play outside the changes, please. You don't do that. You say, do like a Brecker thing, and you're done. That's how you communicate. It's a shorthand. And artists do the same thing. Make me a Sailor Moon thing. Make me a Picasso Cubist thing. That's how you do it. That's how you talk to the large language models. That's how you talk to Midjourney. Is it copying? No, it's doing its best to take your inspiration and your trying to interpret your words and make the best art it can out of it. Who gets credit for that? It's not an easy conversation to have. It's not, and I don't know how it's going to finally happen. Can you copyright the prompts? Not so far, Alan Mostow. Not so far, and at least not that I'm aware of. You can copyright a book of prompts and it'll be yours, so you could do that. Sam the Man Taylor. Oh yeah. We have for you here this page of resources. These are all free. Please avail yourself. We've got all kinds of AI resources and metaverse resources, not the Zuckerverse, but the actual observable metaverse, from AR to XR to MR to VR, like all of the different ways you'd think about moving data around. There's a whole bunch of free resources at shellypalmer.com/resources. So please avail yourselves of those resources. And while we're thinking about it, if you're interested in a POAP, shellypalmer.com/POAP, you'll be able to get those. Remember that sort of 5 of them gets you to our events, to our private events that we do. In the next little bit, oh wait, we have some more questions. Hold on, let's take a couple more questions here. Have I found? Let's see. How do we say this one? Have you found a preferred plugin to connect ChatGPT to Excel or Google Sheets for direct capture of results in cells? Adam Z. So, I don't have the URL up right now, and I apologize for that. But if you go to Futurepedia, which is the website of choice, I think, for every AI thing that is coming out, and you just type in Chrome extensions, you will see all the latest Chrome extensions. They're very good about putting stuff up every day. Futurepedia, I want to say .io. Am I right about that? Yeah, it's this thing here. Let me show you. This guy here, Futurepedia. It's futurepedia.io. They have a couple things they feature every day. They got a little check mark for the stuff their editors vet, and then they have just like literally lists, and it's everything. And I think, and I could be wrong about the actual number, but the order of magnitude is correct. I think there's something like 1,000 apps that got sent out, that got launched in the last 30 days that are AI oriented. So it's hard to keep up with. There are a bunch of Chrome extensions that are pretty good. I don't like any of them long term, and I'm also a little reluctant personally to willy-nilly install Chrome extensions at the enterprise level in our company, because generally, if they're not well written, there are security risks. It's just there's too many holes if you're not a good writer of plugins and so by the time you check it and go through all the benchmarks and like, is it really worth it? What I do know is that Google's going to be adding all of these tools to their suite, workplace suite, as Microsoft is adding all of these tools to the Office suite, Office 365. So we're going to have a pretty solid level of integration of the large language models from each company in our normal Office tools in very short order. I don't think anybody who's making those plugins is going to have a very long-lived business, because the main companies themselves are going to try to integrate the large language models at the earliest possible time. And it's an important thing for them to do, and it's kind of an important thing for us for them to do it. While all the excitement's happening here, understand that Italy banned ChatGPT. Right? We're sitting there going, it's amazing, it's crazy, it's fantastic. And Italy went ahead and banned it. So as excited as we are about it, and as fun as it can be, and here you got Microsoft's gonna put AI-powered image generators into, like, this is all over the map. You don't know who's gonna do what, who's gonna do where, who's gonna do how. We're gonna start doing a thing in about I don't know, tomorrow maybe, where we're gonna do like a GPT prompt of the day, if that makes sense. And since you brought up GPT for Sheets and Google and Excel, let me show you one of my favorite things that we were able to do for with GPT-3 and GPT-4. So let me just grab really quickly. So here's ChatGPT, and we'll use a GPT. This is the $20 a month plus version. So what I'm going to put in here, I just copy and pasted this right now. Imagine, all right, I'm going to read you this prompt, and everybody's going to get what this is immediately. So here are 3 CSV files. Please combine them into one table. Make sure that all the columns are correctly labeled. First name, last name, title, company, email. The first CSV file I'm putting in here, if you look at this first one is L name, comma, F name, comma, with the underscore, company title, email. And you can see that that's how and there's 3 rows. The second one, the header row, is email, comma, first name, comma, last name, comma, title, comma, company. And the third CSV file that I pasted in here is company, comma, title, company first, company last, company email. And so not only are these things first, F name, L name, in different columns, they're named different things. So this is all like super problematic. And you spend a lot of time doing that. Well, yeah, no, not a big problem. Imagine being able to take 3 or 4 spreadsheets that you're trying to just combine and throw it in a couple seconds, have it just be perfect. And when you ask this thing to when you ask GPT-3 or 4, you can cut and paste this because it is already CSV. But if you didn't know that it was already a CSV file, it would just do it for you. I mean, you could just cut and paste that. It would, but if you want it as code to copy, it's literally the same thing. But that's not the point. The point is, if this was more complicated, you might not want, or if it had a page wrap, you might want to see it in this format. And so it'll do it in this format. And that's my little prompt of the day, because I think prompts of the day are really fun to have. And the productivity increase, like you'd hand this to your assistant. Maybe you wouldn't do it. If you've got an assistant, you'd probably hand that project off and say, combine these things, and I want to send out an email merge. I'm going to a trade show next week and I want to do whatever. And you'd hand it off to somebody. You wouldn't have to. And by the way, if you gave it the body of the letter and told it to customize the letter for each one and gave it you gave it the title and oh my goodness, 3 little tidbits of information about each person and use some variables, this thing would mail merge and customize and put some flowery language in there. And if you gave it a format, it's such a productivity enhancer. It really, really is. You guys never do it, but I really wish you would. If any of you wouldn't mind, just at Shelly Palmer is my Twitter handle. Say something nice, or don't, but say something. Just at Shelly Palmer. I've been running this thing at the bottom of the screen for the whole time. I would love you to do that. Apologize for the technical issues. Today we're having the strangest internet. I don't know. Verizon, I have gigabit service here, and I'm sad. So Verizon, I'm looking at you. This is really, not cool. If you have other questions, if you have things you want to know, you can just email me, shelly@shellypalmer.com. I am totally happy to answer your questions at any time. We do our very best to answer every question that comes in. We have been doing all kinds of stuff in generative AI. We've been doing all kinds of stuff in and around Web3 and the convergence of what I think I would call generative AI. Call it the observable metaverse that we've been talking about here, and then Web3, which is nowhere near dead. I think all the get-rich-quick people are gone, but we still have an amazing amount of activity in and around Web3, mostly around decentralized identification or self-sovereign identification, and NFTs, which are smart contracts, and dynamic NFTs, which are a new form factor for NFTs. So tokenization of things like securities. And as you know, the federal government will have its own CBDC program fully launched in July. So we are only a little bit away from a completely new world in crypto. And it is coming back a little bit, so it's maybe worthy of your attention. And I hope that all of you will ask what questions you want to ask and continue to be amazingly curious. Next week, we're not going to be doing Web3 Wednesday because I will be at the Possible Conference at the Fontainebleau in Miami. I hope many of you will be at NAB. I wish I could go. I can't this year because I'm keynoting, and I'm also doing a masterclass with my good friend Dave Lahansky from the NHL, and we're going to talk about data-driven fan experiences. The NHL collects an incredible amount of volumetric data, player and puck and player data, limb and stick data in real time as the players are playing on the ice, and can convert this into all kinds of interesting things. Plus, what do the future fan experiences look like as this data becomes wrangled? We'll do a masterclass in data-driven fan experiences, and then I'm going to do a keynote about what I'm going to call amplified intelligence, this idea of AI, Web3, and the metaverse all coming together, and how you're going to basically, what needs to happen in order to create data-driven immersive experiences that are going to be good for advertisers, good for the users, and good for the creators. We're coming into a time where we need to think about that. What we didn't talk about today was the reduction in web traffic and how web traffic was probably going to be reduced by the chatbots that are coming out, and how that's going to impact every business. And although we touched a little bit on the artists today, we didn't really talk about the fact that every single major play of every major sport up to 2021 is in the large language models. We know what the best home runs sounded like, and we have reports about them. We have the best reports about baskets and goals and touchdowns. And so there's a lot of changes from a consumer perspective that we're going to be, looking at. We will not have anyone at NAB this year. Everyone is sort of aimed at clients or the possible conference. We will miss you there. I apologize, but we will all be in Miami, and of course, look forward to seeing you guys in 2 weeks when we're back. So everyone, look, thank you for being here today. You know this is my favorite time of week. I know we had some technical glitches today. Thank you, Verizon, but there's nothing I could really do about it. I want to wish all of you a very safe and healthy week, or 2 weeks, and I will see you back here 2 Wednesdays, and we'll talk more about AI, the metaverse, and Web3. Everybody, take good care.